was conducted to address the alleged violations of Virginia Code Sections 46.2-1529, 46.2-1539, and 46.2-1575, number 2. Based on the information provided at the conference, the hearing officer recommended assessing a civil penalty of $750 and a satisfactory inspection within 90 days.
Okay, is there anyone on the call to speak to Urban Auto Connection, Mohammed Namaga?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great. Would you go ahead and like to take the floor and just kind of update us on this case, please?
Good morning, board members. Yeah, so I think the last meeting we had, I was recommended to provide because when they came and did the inspection sticker were missing inside the dealer jackets. And the day that happened, I talked to Ms. Ellis, and she recommended. I told her that we did do the inspection for all the vehicles on the lot, and then I called the state, the state trooper to get the copy of the inspection stickers, and I did obtain all of them, and I sent it to Miss Alice, and I think she received them. And then I think that's where we were last time we spoke, yes.
Yes, that's true, Mr. Namaga. As I understand it, there were 3 safety inspections that were not documented, or you could not find the receipts to. We tabled this case to give you an opportunity to provide those documents. We all did receive an update, and there are images attached to our update that show the inspection stickers. William, can I assume that those inspection stickers are for the 3 vehicles that were in question?
Yes, you can.
Okay, so we do have documentation for the 3 safety inspections that were missing. Did you want to add anything else, Mr. Namaga?
Yes, I just want to thank you guys for the opportunity, and kind of, like I said, when this happened, I was not here. I was back home taking care of my father was ill, and so when I got back, went back and review everything. Kind of give me an opportunity to review all the rules and everything, all the aspects of the dealership. Thank you guys for that, and I think I will keep up with this, and it will not happen again.
Okay, thank you. Thank you again for your input and discussion by the committee. So the hearing officer's recommendation, or where we were last, was a $750 civil penalty for the 3 missing documents, which have since been provided, and reinspection within 90 days. If I can get this discussion on this topic, or if no discussion, a motion, please.
I'll make a motion that we drop the 750, just a reinspection within 90 days.
Okay, so there's a motion on the table. 750 dropped, reinspection in 90 days. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay.
Second from McQueen.
We do have a second, Alice. I assume you got that. So the motion is for reinspection within 90 days. If I can get a vote on that, I guess Alice will have to go ahead and read the roll and get a vote.
Hello. I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The way I read this, there was like 5 violations or 7 violations originally, and he brought documentation to the DMV, and it was 3 of them were taken off on the penalty, and then the 750 is the ones that he didn't have the documentations for. Now,
that is a
is
true
he
statement.
saying that he has inspection for all 7 cars or whatever it was? at $250 apiece?
He provided documents for the 3 vehicles that were missing safety inspections, $250 each for a total of $750.
Okay, but was it total of violations 3 or more?
I have to look back in my book, but the question was on those 3.
You go back up on agency exhibit, says penalty of $1,250.
Senior, I'm not looking where you're looking. We have a motion on the table to drop the $750, a 90-day inspection. We need to vote on that motion.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
We've had this case before the dealer board twice. We've given this gentleman 6 months to correct these issues. He's come up with it. For us to walk away without any kind of penalty, I think is not fair.
I don't have all the other background behind it. Again, we have a motion. We either would have to change the current motion on the table, vote it down, and get a new motion.
I mean, guys, he had the inspections done on the cars. He just didn't have them in the folders when they came to inspect. He was out of the country taking care of his father. So I think we cut him a little bit of slack and accept the inspection certificates that he was charged for as being done. So he was doing the right job. And I think a follow-up inspections do.
Yeah, he's still going to have a satisfactory inspection within 90 days. You'll get another chance if this business isn't running as it should be. I have a motion on the table. Alice, if we can take a vote on the motion on the table for a satisfactory inspection within 90 days.
Okay. All right. For time's sake, I'm not going to call the ones that are absent. All right. Ron Cody?
Yes, I agree. Aye.
Steve Farmer?
Yes.
Michael Bohr?
Aye.
Gardner Britt?
No.
Matt McQueen?
Aye.
Chris Mayer?
Yes.
Senior Sagafi?
No.
5 yeses, 2 nos.
Ayes have it. Motion is approved. Thank you, sir. And again, you'll be given an opportunity to speak in the full board meeting, which will follow. Any other old business from the floor? Okay, under new business, we have tab 2 under new business, and that's Jerry's Auto and Service and Sales.
Yes, Jerry's Auto Service and Sales. Board members who have been on the board for a couple of years or more realize that this is an annual request. This individual has been in business, I believe, since 1986 or 87. It's been a long time. In his previous life, he was an instructor, a teacher in the school system, and was unable to have his shop open during the hours that we would normally look for, primarily between the hours of 9 and 5, Monday through Friday. He, in the beginning, put a variance request into the board and was approved. The variance was approved, and he has been doing this now for 20 plus years, seeking this variance. He is retired now, and as a retiree, he is still under contract to his locality to be available to assist within the school system, but for the most part, his business is restoring vehicles. He restores vehicles and he sells vehicles. He's not asking for a variance in the sense of not working hours. He does work from 4 to 8, 5 days a week.
Okay, yeah.
So he's working the hours just later. He works Monday through Friday from 4 to 8.
Okay, I'm just asking because I'm getting ready to do it.
So
That's just in power, right?
Have permission to continue what he's been doing for the last 22, 23 years.
So in summation, he's going to be open 20 hours a week, which meets that requirement. The issue is, or the variance is, 10 of those hours will not be between 9 and 5. Only 5 of those will. Mr. Malloy, could you please mute your mic, please?
Okay. Sorry about that.
So that is the variance he's requesting. We have approved this historically. Is there anybody on this call to talk to tab 2? Okay, with no one present to talk, discussion by the committee? If no discussion, can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we approve his request for hour variance based on the circumstance that he's a part-time teacher at the school. He's in his 70s. He has a little bit of restoration. We've been granting him the same. There's a lot of background music. Somebody please mute your mic. This guy's in his 70s. He's requested it for 20 years. I think it's valid, and I think we're okay to do it. So I make the motion.
I second the motion.
Okay, Michael Bohr seconds the motion to go ahead and approve the variance. Any other discussion? Okay, Alice, if you would please take a vote.
Okay, all right, before I call the roll, is Jeff Malloy here?
Yes, I am.
Okay, all right, I had just as not here. I didn't call his name to vote on that last issue. Were you able to be there for that discussion?
Yes, I was, and I would have voted in favor of the motion.
In favor, so I'm going to put you down as a yes. Okay, thank you. All right, now, calling the roll for the second one. Ron Cody?
Aye.
Steve Farmer?
Yes.
Michael Bohr?
Aye.
Gardner Britt?
Aye.
Matt McQueen?
Aye.
Chris Mayer?
Aye.
Jeff Malloy?
Aye.
Senior Sagafi?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous.
Thank you. Alice, the ayes have it. Motion carries. That is the end of our new business. Is there any other new business from the floor? Hearing no new business from the floor, our next meeting will be scheduled for 9 a.m. September the 14th, and dealer practices is adjourned.
Okay, Mr. Slaughter.
Yes. All righty. I'd like to call Dealer License Committee to order. Alice, can you call the roll, please?
Okay, Maurice Slaughter?
Yes.
Ed Bailey? Dan Bannister?
Here.
Liza Borsius? Gardner Britt?
Here.
David Duncan? David Duncan?
Can't hear, but he's got his thing on.
I think his mic is muted.
Hang on, yeah, I don't see, there's a caller. I can't tell who callers they are when they dial in like that.
Okay. All right, we think David's here.
Yeah, he's here. You can see his picture.
Okay. Rob Fisher? Randy Harris?
Present.
Senior Sagafi?
Here.
John Sullivan?
Here. Here.
Okay, you have a quorum.
Thank you. I want to state that all of you all that's on the agenda will give an opportunity to speak when it comes up. I'd like to see if there are any public comments at this time. All right. First, I'd like to go into the old business. We had the June meeting. And if there's no objections, I'd like to get that meeting approved. Can we do a roll call?
approve the agenda from the previous meeting.
Got a second?
I'll second.
All right, Alice, can we take a roll call, please?
Maurice Slaughter,
Yes.
Dan Bannister,
Yes.
Gardner Britt,
Yes.
David Duncan,
Yeah. Yes.
Randy Harris,
Yes.
Senior Sagafi,
Yes.
Don Sullivan.
Yes.
Is that all the votes, Alice?
Yes, sir. It's unanimous.
Thank you. All right, for old business, is there any old business from the floor at this time? Nope. All right, we'd like to go to new business. And on my agenda, I don't see any new business. Am I correct on that?
Yes, you are.
Right. Any new business from the floor? With that, then I'd like to adjourn this meeting. Our next meeting is scheduled for September 14th at 9 a.m. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Or do I need it?
Motion, we adjourn.
You don't need it.
I don't need it? Okay. Well, with that, the meeting is adjourned. License Committee. And we'll be meeting back as a full board meeting this morning. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Duncan, are you able to? You're on mute right now. Okay,
All right. How about now?
we can hear you.
All right. I'd like to bring the July Advertising Committee to order. Alice, if you could call the roll, please.
David Duncan,
Here.
is that a yes?
Yes.
Ted Bailey, Dan Bannister,
Here.
Michael Bohr,
Here.
Zaborcius, Randy Harris,
Here.
Ron Cody,
Here.
Jeff Malloy,
Here.
Matt McQueen,
Here.
Maurice Slaughter,
Here.
Don Sullivan.
Here.
All right, you have a quorum.
All right. Thank you, Alice. If for your state on your agenda, if you have an opportunity to speak for a public comment, if there are no objections, I'd like to approve the June 20 committee meeting summary. With that, there is no old business, but is there any old business from the floor? Seeing none. New business. I don't have anything on the agenda. Is there any new business from the floor? Seeing none, I will make a motion we adjourn the meeting. Our next meeting will be Monday, September 14th, 2020.
Okay, Mr. Mayor.
All right, I'd like to call the July 13th Transaction Recovery Fund Committee meeting to order. Alice, would you call the roll, please? Dan, please mute your mic.
All right, Chris Mayer,
Here.
Jeff Malloy,
Here.
Dan Bannister,
Here.
Michael Bohr,
Here.
Steve Farmer,
Here.
Rob Fisher, Randy Harris,
Here.
Ron Cody,
Here.
Matt McQueen,
Here.
Maurice Slaughter,
Here.
John Sullivan.
Here.
Okay, you have a quorum.
Okay, thank you, Alice. Not that it's necessary, but if you have anything you want to speak about, it's going to be limited to the topics on the agenda, which we don't have any. In case somebody brings something up, that's what it goes by. If there's no problem with approving the June 2020 meeting summary, I call that approved. Any old business from the floor? No old business from the floor. Any new business? No new business. Our next meeting will be September 14th, 2020, and that's the end of our meeting.
Okay, Commissioner Holcomb. Okay, not seeing him here right now. Let's take about a 10-minute break. I'm prepared to go into the full board meeting. Let's give him about 10 minutes before we resume. So right now the time is 9:25. Let's resume at 9:35. Okay, 9:35. Thank you.
Can anyone hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. I've been having technical difficulties. For some reason, the dealer board only wants me to have a phone line. I don't have the link, so I'm ready to start whenever William comes back.
The link's in the email. You want me to send you the email, Commissioner?
We just sent it to you. We just sent it to you, Rick.
William, what time did you say we'd get started again?
9:35, sir.
Okay. Okay, I'll be back. I'll start it in 3 minutes. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, William, we'll go ahead and get started. It's 9:35. We'll call the full board to order. Alice, can you call the roll?
Yes, sir. Ted Bailey, Dan Bannister,
Here.
Michael Bohr,
Here.
Zaborcius, Gardner Britt,
Here.
David Duncan,
He's here, Alice.
David Duncan,
He's here.
Steve Farmer,
Here.
Rob Fisher, Randy Harris,
Here.
Ron Cody,
Here.
Chris Mayer,
Here.
Jeff Malloy,
Here.
Matt McQueen,
Here.
Senior Sagafi,
Here.
Maurice Slaughter,
Here.
Don Sullivan,
Here.
Rick Holcomb.
Here. Okay, we've got, we will have public comment from anyone who does not have a case before us. Anybody have a comment they'd like to make? Okay, we've got before us the minutes from our last meeting. Without objection, those minutes stand approved. Okay, we'll next go to the committee reports. Chairman Cody, you had a couple of matters, if you could report on those.
Yes, Commissioner. The Dealer Practices Committee met earlier and a quorum was present. We did approve a summary from the last committee meeting, and we have two resolutions for the full board's consideration. And William, if you would please read tab 1.
Yes, thank you. Tab 1, Urban Auto Connection LLC and Mohammed B. Namaga. Whereas the board has reviewed and considered the facts and evidence and the report of an informal fact-finding conference as prepared by the hearing officer concerning Urban Auto Connection and Mohammed Namaga for alleged violations of Virginia Code sections 46.2-1529, 46.2-1539, and 46.2-1575, number 2. And whereas based on due consideration, the board believes that the following actions should be taken against Urban Auto Connection and Mohammed Namaga. 1, Urban Auto Connection shall be inspected by a motor vehicle dealer board field representative by October 13, 2020, and that inspection shall be satisfactory. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the board mandates that the Urban Auto Connection dealership shall satisfactorily pass an inspection conducted by a motor vehicle dealer board field representative on or before October 13, 2020. Therefore, be it further resolved by the board that failure to comply with the board's mandates by the required dates will result in the suspension of all licenses, certificates issued by the board until such time the Urban Auto Connection dealership and Mohammed Namaga complies with the board's mandates.
Mr. Chairman, is that your motion?
It is, Commissioner, and Mr. Namaga was present at our meeting.
Okay, let me get a second to the motion, and then we'll allow him to speak. A second to the motion.
Second from McQueen.
Okay. And the dealer in question, anything you'd like to add to what you presented earlier this morning?
I have a question.
Senior?
Yes.
Senior, your mic is still muted.
Yeah, looking at this, the tab to try and understand it correctly. On Exhibit 5 on page 11, it says a total of 5 penalties that for inspections, five inspections that he satisfied 2 of them, and the hearing officer recommended 3 more penalties for the inspection that haven't been provided for $750,000. Now, the way I understand the committee wants to drop all the penalties and lead it to the next inspection. I just want to make sure Mr. Imago has all these 5 inspections copies provided. The way I read this on Exhibit 5 is 1250, and then respond position Exhibit 1 says he's provided inspection for 2 of the 5 vehicles.
I think there might be confusion. I think 2 of the 5 was the original, then he had 3 left, and then he submitted images to everybody since we tabled this motion at our last meeting. And that's when I verified with William that he had provided documentation for the 3 missing. And that's why the motion was made to do away with the $750 civil charge.
Okay, then I'm okay with that.
Further discussion?
Yeah, I had a question for staff. The documentation is not presented, so I just want to confirm that staff did verify that the date of those inspections preceded the date of the car sales.
Repeat that. You came in a little broken up.
Yes, date of the inspections, if those dates precede the date of the car sales.
Yes, the receipts that we received met our requirements.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion?
Dan, your mic is on. Dan Bannister, your mic's on.
Further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Oh, I'm sorry, we have to call the roll. Call the roll, Alice.
All right. Dan Bannister,
Yes.
Michael Bohr,
Yes, aye.
Gardner Britt,
No.
David Duncan,
Mr. Duncan, give me a thumbs up or thumbs down. He's in favor, Alice. Aye. Thumbs up.
Right.
Thank you.
Steve Farmer,
Yes.
Randy Harris,
Yes.
Ron Cody,
Aye.
Chris Mayer,
Aye.
Jeff Malloy,
Aye.
Matt McQueen,
Aye.
Senior Sagafi,
Aye.
Maurice Slaughter,
Aye.
Don Sullivan,
Aye.
Rick Holcomb.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, motion carried. Next matter, Mr. Chairman.
Tab 2, Commissioner, Jerry's Auto Service and Sales, Jerry Farmer.
Yes, as discussed in the committee meeting this morning, Mr. Farmer has been in business basically since the mid-'80s. He, at the time he opened his dealership initially, was a teacher in the Pennsylvania County school system. What he does for business pretty much is he gets vehicles, restores them, and sells them. But he asked for a variance in hours. The hours, he's working the 20 hours a week, but he cannot work the 10 hours a week between the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Because he was teaching. So he asked for a variance while he was teaching to allow him to work open his shop between the hours of 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. Monday through Friday. Mr. Farmer has since retired from the Pennsylvania County school system, but he's still in his retirement contract required to be available to the district for any school matters that he may be able to assist with during the day. So now he's come back to us, I think, for the 22nd or 23rd year and is seeking a variance again to his hours to continue to work between 4 and 8 p.m. Monday through Friday.
So the motion, Mr. Chairman, the motion is to approve the requested variance.
It is, Commissioner. The motion is to approve the requested variance, which is only 5 hours between 9 to 5 p.m., but he is working all 20 for the week. So that's why we grant the variance each year. And Mr. Farmer was not present.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I'll make the second.
Okay, Chris Mayer seconds that. Discussion? All in favor will say aye when the roll is called. All opposed say nay.
Dan Bannister,
Aye.
Michael Bohr,
Aye.
Gardner Britt,
Aye.
David Duncan, Farmer,
Aye.
Randy Harris,
Aye.
Ron Cody,
Aye.
Chris Mayer,
Aye.
Jeff Malloy,
Aye.
Matt McQueen,
Aye.
Senior Sagafi, Maurice
Aye.
Slaughter,
Aye.
Donald Sullivan,
Aye.
Rick Holcomb.
Aye, and I did see David Duncan put his thumb up. Did you record him in the affirmative?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Motion carried.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, does that conclude your report?
It does, Commissioner. We had no other business. We did adjourn, and our next meeting is scheduled for September 14th.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Slaughter, Licensing Committee.
The License Committee was called to order, and we had a quorum. At that meeting, we approved the meetings from the minutes from the last meeting in June. There was no old business discussion, no old business from the floor, so we moved to new business. There was no new business and no new business from the floor. So we moved to adjourn the meeting, and we will be meeting again September 14th, 9 a.m.
Thank you for a very efficient and concise report. We'll now move to the Advertising Committee, who will provide that report.
Hey, Mr. Duncan, we can't hear you. We can't see you.
Okay, do we have a do we have a vice chair or do we have another member of the committee? Because I think the report would be as concise as Mr. Slaughter's report if we could hear Mr. Duncan.
Yeah, the vice chair is not present. He's out. He's not at this meeting.
Do we have a member of the board who can, a member of that committee who can report? I see Mr. Cody's mic is on. Ron, are you a member of that? Are you a member of the Advertising Committee?
William, I don't know that I am. Am I? But I can handle it. I'll handle it. Commissioner, we met. It was a very extensive meeting earlier today. Quorum was present. The committee approved a summary from the last meeting. We had no additional business, both new or old, to discuss. So we handled it in a very judicious manner. And then we did adjourn, and we are going to meet again on September 14th.
Ms. Cody, I appreciate that report on behalf of Chairman Duncan, and he appreciates it as well. I see his thumb going up. The final report is on transaction recovery. Mr. Mara.
Mr. Chairman, we're going to have an efficient following as well. The Transaction Recovery Fund Committee met this morning. There was a quorum. There was no new or old business. We approved the notes from the last meeting, and we adjourned, and our next meeting is September 14th.
Appreciate your report, Mr. Chairman. Now we'll go to old business, and you can see from the agenda there's some topics that I think we'll have some good discussion on. So let me ask our executive director to lead us in the first issue. Obviously, as an agency head of a sort of large agency. I will tell you, none of us were prepared for COVID, and we all had some unique opportunities to learn and lead. William has done a very good job in getting us through, or getting us to this point. We're nowhere near through, but absolutely, we've got some lessons learned, and I look forward to William's presentation on this. William?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it. Before I go into details about what we've done here at the Motor Vehicle Board, Dealer Board, we talked about our challenges and things that we had to overcome in the last meeting briefly. But I also wanted to get an opportunity to the dealerships, the associations, to represent their customers and give us some things that they've gone through, things that they've learned also, because I think having the full picture and knowing the things that they're dealing with will help us as we develop strategies and plans to address the issues that we want to be dealing with in the near future, but could also be in the long term as well. So with that said, I had asked each association to be prepared to give some comments, and I think first on the agenda would be the VADA, and I think Ann Gabardella, I see her present. And Ann, if you don't mind.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ann Gambardella for the Virginia Auto Dealers Association. We actually had some internal discussions and wanted to make a few observations and suggestions for the board to consider, just in operations generally, but also COVID matters that we think, particularly in light of the changes that are going on with sales licensing and the dealer portal, would be a good thing to consider now. The first is the sales licensing process has obviously been a challenge. I know the board staff is looking at a way to administer those tests for salesperson and dealer operator licensing that does not involve having to go into a customer service center. You know, obviously with those being closed, it's been a problem. The board has been innovative in creating a system where staff has gone out to administer and proctor those exams, but that's obviously not a sustainable thing for the board staff to be doing. We deeply appreciate their efforts on doing that, and we know that these customer service centers are now open again for appointments. So it's working its way through. There are still some delays in that salesperson testing. And then also in sales licensing generally, with the announcement that the dealerships are going to have to start submitting background checks with licensing applications, we hope that that's going to streamline and speed up the sales licensing process. That's probably the biggest issue our dealers contact us about as it relates to the dealer board, is just how long it takes to get sales licenses. And I know I've spoken with William about this several times, and we just offer a couple of suggestions for the board to consider adopting. The first is once the licensing process, once the licensing information is submitted to the dealer board with the required fees and with a clean background check, you know, we'd like to consider, like the board to consider whether you can deem somebody licensed at that point, because there's not much else to do once you've gone through that process. In the alternative, say they're licensed unless the board responds in 3 days or 5 days. Put some sort of time limit on there so that you make sure that this process is sped up. And then also consider whether once the licensing is complete, I know that it then has to be transmitted over to DMV, who prints the actual physical license, and then it has to be mailed. Putting in place a system to allow dealers to check online that the application has been approved and not have to wait for that printing and mailing. Especially as you develop the new dealer portal, there may be a way to do that more efficiently. And so that would allow the person to commence selling in really several days once you get a process in place where the background checks are coming in with the applications. So we really think that'll speed along the process for the dealers, for the salespeople who want to get to work, and for the dealer board, quite frankly, and finding a way to use that dealer portal to streamline some of those licensing functions. The second thing that we had talked about were just dealer board operations generally, and some of these suggestions are a little bit broad, but we thought it was worth raising now that we're talking about changes, is to make sure that the board is authorized to do these electronic meetings. It may be that the board wants to do all but one meeting a year electronically. I mean, it's obviously more convenient for those who have to travel some distance. It's more convenient for the licensees who may be coming before the board. Certainly having this functionality has been great during the pandemic, but it may be worth considering whether that going forward, especially as we all become more proficient with this technology, that this is just a very efficient way of conducting business. So we'd suggest that. The other thing that we'd suggest is some restructuring of the board itself. The committee structure seems to be a little outdated. If the whole board is sitting, listening to the committees, and then going through a sort of rubber stamp process at the full board level, is it more efficient just to have the full board hear all these cases and make the determinations? You know, that's something for the board to consider. And in place of those committees, have some sort of executive committee that would provide guidance to the executive director in between meetings and be able to move a little bit more swiftly, particularly as some of these new entrants on the industry, new technology comes along, that you may need some guidance before the next scheduled board meeting. Our folks have been very interested in expanding the ability to do business electronically. DMV has been very progressive in making sure that as much as can be done electronically gets done. We oftentimes find that our dealers may not know of all the things that they can use electronically to get their processes done, from DocuSign documents to true electronic signatures. We've been working closely with DMV on that. But what we would like to suggest is that the dealer board staff and the DMV staff work on ensuring that all of the paperwork transactions that happen can be as electronic as possible, and then provide some additional education for dealers, because I do think there's a gap between what dealers want to do and what they can already do. They may just not know it yet. So that would be one thing that we'd suggest, is that the two staffs work together closely to you know, get the in-person transaction piece of it down or reduced as much as possible, particularly in light of you know, current health situation. We'd like to suggest some sort of general acknowledgement by the board that it's received information. I know that we get requests, or we get comments from dealers that they've sent something to the dealer board for review and they've never heard back. Again, with the new dealer portal coming online, it may be able to help with that, to automate some of those responses. Automate a response that, yes, we've received your licensing application. You know, it can automate a response. Yes, the application is complete. We think that with the new dealer portal, we should be looking at those sorts of things, but generally an acknowledgement by the board that it's received something, and to automate that as much as possible. I know that in filing state taxes, they'll tell you, we've received your application. They'll notify you if something is missing, and it's all an automated process. So just something else to keep in mind as you're looking at that dealer portal. Same with to expand that a little further, with a complaint handling process. If you receive information from you know, a dealer or a member of the public concerning a practice that they find problematic, just an acknowledgement that it's been received, and then some sort of acknowledgement as to what the disposition may have been with that issue, I think is really important. Because again, I know that you know, the board has lots of information coming at it, but that, you know, the dealers, like, at least from our end, what we're hearing is that, you know, the dealers want to know that the issue that they brought, trying to bring attention to, has been received, and then what has happened with it. Also suggest that, you know, there's a lot of, with all the business that's going on online, in addition to advertising, it may be worth expanding the investigative processes of the dealer board into the practices of dealers online. You can do some of that, or most of that, remotely. I mean, it's certainly something to consider, some interactions with dealerships on their dealer practices online. We want to make sure that the electronic practices are keeping up with the laws and regulations that are in place to protect consumers. And then lastly, as we talk about automating all of these sort of processes, it would be, I think, useful for the dealer board to get some performance metrics. You know, how long is it taking to do sales licensing? How long is it taking to respond to complaints? And just have a process in place to really take a look at those metrics so that you can make sure that staffing and resources are directed where they're most needed, and that the dealer community and the consumers are being served as efficiently as they can. So again, that's sort of a lot to throw at you. We'd be glad to share with you some of those comments in writing, just so that you've got that list. But we tried to take a sort of expansive view on some of the changes that we see, driven both by COVID, and then in general, if you're making changes, some other things we'd suggest. So that's what we have, Mr. Chairman.
And Ann, I appreciate that. A couple of comments. Absolutely, you have thrown a whole lot at us. I, for one, would like to see that in writing, because there's some that can be done administratively. I think there's some that would take legislation, and I think all are good ideas, or at least ideas that are worth discussion. So I would ask you to commit that in writing. Before we hear from VIDA, just a couple of other things. And I also, I am lucky enough to be on y'all's email list, and I very much appreciate almost the daily COVID updates that y'all are sending to your members. I find them to be very informative, and I commend you for keeping your dealer so well informed on the various things that are happening. And thank you for putting me on that list.
Well, thank you. And I'd just like to give a shout out. Tommy Lukish on our staff has done the yeoman's work on putting all that together. And it is available on our webpage at VADA.com if there's dealers out there that are looking for resources. So thank you, Mr. Commissioner.
Good. Ann mentioned, yes, we are trying to open our offices as quickly as possible. We've got a couple of challenges. As of today, we have one of the 75 offices open. The two challenges that we have is, first of all, we want to make sure we're guaranteeing a safe environment for all of our customers and our employees. And one of the main things that we have on that is that we are installing Lexan, or a plexiglass shield, at the front counter between the customers and our employees. And as you may expect, certainly there is a great demand for plexiglass, and a lot of back order to that. The other challenge that we have, quite frankly, is because of COVID, we've had a number of employees who have moved up their retirement. They've found other employment, or quite frankly, they're still on the federal leave. So we're having a little bit of a challenge staffing our offices. But our goal is to have everything open by the by the early fall. Now, having said that, I'm sure all the franchise dealers and the independent dealers who sell more than 100 units have seen the value of being an online dealer. And in fact, we've heard from the online dealer vendors that when the customer service centers were closed, even though headquarters was still open, we saw a great number of dealers who are not statutorily required to be online to choose to go online, so that they continue their business even when the customer service centers were closed. So I appreciate that. I see that we've got a representative of the VIDA, so I will ask him to go on. But I see, Mr. Harris, you've got a question?
Yes, Commissioner. Since we were seeking comments from the association, we've received a number of comments from Ann, and you requested that she provide those in writing. Upon receiving those comments in writing, what would be the process that we would take to consider, yay, nay, to move forward?
Very good question. And again, Ann, that's the first I've heard of some of the concerns or some of the suggestions or comments that VADA has. I think what we need to do, I'd like to have a chance to review those. I would suspect that we would put a subcommittee together to review them and make some recommendations. and then put before the board. Again, there were administrative things that we most likely can do. I know when we start talking about the dealer portal in a few minutes, some of the requests that the VADA was making are very reasonable, and there are certainly things that we currently have at DMV on our online transactions. So I would think that those would be an easy, easy discussion and hopefully an easy lift. But some of the discussions dealing with the composition of the board, the required subcommittees or the committees that are statutorily required, we're probably going to have some discussion and decide whether we want to take a legislative approach to get those done. Certainly when Ann presents those suggestions in writing, we will share those suggestions with everyone. Then I look forward to putting together a subcommittee that will drill down a little bit deeper and then make some recommendations to the board.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to the VIADA for their presentation.
Mr. Commissioner and Mr. Executive Director William Childress, thank you for this opportunity. First, I want to say thank you to the Governor Northam of Virginia for allowing the auto dealers of Virginia to be essential businesses during this COVID-19. Even though businesses was extremely slow, the dealers had the opportunity to sell a few cars, pay a few bills, and feel less helpless as they were able to go to work. This was very good as we saw partnering states dealing with the COVID-19 and how horrible it was for those dealers that were not able to be open. Virginia, we were very fortunate, and we definitely thank you, and I'm sure VADA feels the same way. During the COVID-19, the Motor Vehicle Dealer Board had a lower oversight over the independent and franchise dealers. This gave the independent dealers and regular dealers the flexibility to deal with the day-to-day issues that they were being presented during the COVID-19. The field testing was very impressive and well received. I think that was very good that the field directors the field agents were able to go to the insights and do those testings. I think you guys went above and beyond during those measures. Extending the expired registration and licenses was also appreciated and well received as dealers were trying to sell cars and some of those licenses were expired. We were able to still sell some cars to those people, and you were able to extend that. That was very impressive to see that you guys did that. Dealers appreciated the extra time that was allowed to resolve issues and violations with the Motor Vehicle Dealer Board. Few items that we saw that I think that we need improvement. I think that the DMV dealer centers we need more. Unfortunately, the auctions are not able to handle all the workload alone. They're being sent a lot of work by DMV as well. And the time frame that we were allowing them to do the paperwork is taking sometimes twice or three times the time to process those paperwork. Therefore, a lot of that paper is being delayed and we're not processing things in an adequate time. So we need to look at maybe adding more DMV processing centers. COVID-19 has changed the way that car dealers do business. Most auctions changed from in-person auctions to simulcast only. Now everybody has to become a little more computer literate and learn how to buy cars on the portals, do arbitrations, and learn about the different arbitration rules through the auctions. Manheim Market Report, I was in a meeting with the president of Cox, which is Manheim Auctions, 2 weeks ago, and they were saying how it has been so volatile, the market. During the COVID-19, the Manheim Market Report was $2,000 to $3,000 below market value, and now we're seeing swings up to $8,000 difference in the market. This is making it extremely difficult for everyone to really know the price of a car, and they're scrambling. During this time, also, the new manufacturers stopped producing as many cars. So therefore, the new car franchises at our auctions trying to buy as much inventory they can, late model inventory, which makes it extremely difficult for the independent dealers to compete. That was my report.
Appreciate that, and I'm checking in because the last report I heard was that the auctions were processing the work in a timely manner. So if you've got specifics on where you think things are taking 2 to 3 times longer, if you can send those to me, I will check into that. Okay,
Mr.
William. Certainly great comments by both trade associations.
Can we make comments about that?
I'm sorry?
Can we have discussion about the comments from the trade association?
We sure can, but you know, I don't see any decision making. These are some big issues that need discussion, but certainly, you know, everyone is welcome to express their views at this point.
Well, only thing I was going to say is, as you said, that your Division of Motor Vehicles having a problem with employees because of the COVID and some not wanting to come back to work. We're having the same issues in the dealer community with trying to get the right personnel and adequately staffing is, and some people are switching jobs and doing that. And this licensing issue is one I think we should be able to make a decision on. When you decided to switch from the board doing the background checks to put it on the dealer community, we made that decision in basically 20 minutes. So I don't know why we can't just attack that one thing. Would make a big help for our dealer community to just say, hey, once you get the clean paperwork, maybe 3 days later, bam, consider it approved and make that easy for the dealers out there to operate during this time as you're struggling to get your offices back online.
William, comments?
Yes, I have a few comments. So first comment is that this process we're talking about is for new salespeople, initial sales applications, and this process will start August the 1st. And my belief and our belief, we've discussed this extensively amongst the staff. Our belief is that once we receive the applications from the dealerships and the background checks have already been performed, that the process will be a lot quicker, a lot more transparent, a lot smoother. We pretty much get things done now within 7 to 10 working days, and we're conducting the background checks. What I think people don't realize is those background checks can take anywhere from 5 to 15 days, depending on the individual being checked and the things that are going on. So that's part of the problem. We strongly feel that this process that we're putting in place now is going to have some issues in the beginning as people get used to us, as dealerships adapt to having the responsibility of doing the background checks. But once it's up and running and people are accustomed to it, we strongly feel that that process would be severely streamlined unless the dealerships are submitting applications to us before the background checks come back from the background vendor.
Mr. Harris, it looks like you're ready for a comment.
Yeah, I was going to ask William. So when you say faster, I mean, if it went from 10 days to 5 days, from a dealership perspective, those 5 days are still 5 lost days for that candidate that we're trying to get on the floor. So, given VADA's suggestion, if the background check is ran previously, there's no criminal record on that background check. What else does the motor vehicle board do to determine whether or not a person should be licensed or not?
Well, we still have the process. We have to follow what the code has requirements in place that we must make sure have been met. So for the most part, it's just administrative. And when it comes down to it, in most cases, it would be a matter of the volume ahead of the application. We're not staffed to do things in one day. We, like anybody else in government, we have backlogs, or we have processes where we process things as we receive them. Again, we're hoping that when this process is put in place, that we will receive clean applications, meaning that the background checks have been done, and therefore there's a possibility we may be able to get it done the day it comes in. That's a possibility. But also we have to, and to Ann's point earlier, if it is a clean application and we can get it done the same day, we still have to wait a day or two for the overnight batch to send it back to us from DMV before we can mail it out, which is why she was saying at that point, once we put it into the system, then they can be considered licensed at that point, and we could maybe put it out someplace where the dealerships can see it and the person can start before they actually get the document in hand. Now, also with that said, there's a stipulation in the code that requires the salesperson to have the license with them on their person, which is one of the things that Rick was saying, that we need to look at those type of things, because there's going to be some type of code change unless we can do something administratively to overcome that.
Yeah, that's an issue with transfers as well. You know, got salespeople are already licensed, but technically they need to license. I mean, that does.
Well, the transfer doesn't require a background check.
But I'm just saying, but they technically you're supposed to have a license in your on your presence, right?
Right.
Transfers they don't, but in reality, in the real world, I'm not sure how much that's being followed.
Well, I can't tell you who's actually not carrying their licenses, but the transfers have the same process that I spoke of earlier, without the background checks being performed. And again, it comes down strictly to a volume issue. And the things that we're talking about now are all some of the things that we believe that the portal will overcome for everybody.
And William, that was going to be my suggestion. This is good discussion, but absolutely anyone who goes into the DMV now and you renew your license, or you get a replacement, or you're getting your original license, you leave with the temporary license, which allows you to drive. That temporary license is shows on our record. So if law enforcement cues it, you're able to operate with a piece of paper, even though your license is being printed and mailed to you from our central production site. So I would hope, and I see John Sauls is anxious to talk about the portal, but I suspect that absolutely that would have to be a requirement that the day that the person is licensed, the system says he's licensed, and that person then has a virtual license. I don't know why the dealership themselves can't print the license at their dealership once. And I see John's shaking his head. That's the type of thing that should be allowed. That the minute the person is licensed by the board staff, that a email goes to the dealership prints that license on site, and the person goes to work. I think Mr. Harris or William, I think you raised a good point. Obviously, when someone transfers from one dealership to another, that should be a very expedited process. Someone who is coming into the community for the first time, that's got a couple of extra steps to go through. But I think everybody is making very reasonable requests to be able to move things along a lot quicker, particularly in light of the challenges that we're all facing with COVID. Let me just ask the board, would it be useful at this time to maybe go and talk about the dealer portal, talk about the things that will be available? But I'm sure, William, there is some impatience on the part of your board members that we need to move on things quickly. So I look forward to some administrative things that we can do while we're waiting for the portal to be built and we're waiting for legislation to be considered. So, William, let me turn it back over to you at this point.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Commissioner. I appreciate it. And again, as far as the portal is concerned, our end game for everybody to be on the same page, our end game is that a customer, if they come into the office, at some point will be able to walk into our office and leave with all the credentials that they came in looking for: salesperson's licenses, a certificate, everything. Right now, that's not possible, but when it's all said and done, hopefully within the next year or two, when everything's in place and up and running, that will be the end game. And as the commissioner just spoke to you about, the ability for you to print the licenses at your dealerships, that is part of what we're looking for through the portal as well. So everything that we're talking about, this portal, as we see it, is an avenue to achieve those objectives and achieve those goals, to make this process more efficient and make it more real time to the dealership community than what we have in place now. So with that said, I'm gonna go ahead and start talking about the portal. Okay, so with we're still talking about lessons learned, so I'm gonna go through that first and get to the portal in a second. One of the things that we on the dealer board have been doing through this whole process is that we're looking at ways to get our work done. As was stated earlier, one of the first things that we talked about doing, that we suspended inspections. We suspended random inspections. We felt that putting our field reps in harm's way was not worth it, number one. And number two, the dealerships who were reacting to the situation, we felt had the right to not be open if they didn't want to be open, of fear of contracting the virus as well. So we suspended that process. But what that made us do, though, is look at how we do things now. So one of the things that we're going to start doing, and this is something that we feel we can do without the board's approval because it's a work process, is that we're looking at putting two things in place to help the whole process. First thing we're going to put in place is an electronic inspection process. And Lisa Mike Nelson is standing by to assist me should I need it. So Lisa, I appreciate the help, but leave something out, please feel free to step in and pick up where I left off. The electronic process makes a lot of sense. First of all, it's something now that I think most dealerships are able to do. The law requires dealerships to have internet, have electronic addresses, things of that nature. So we feel that this will work for us. What will happen here is that the field rep can contact the dealership and they can ask them for specific records or various records to be transmitted to them electronically and do some type of electronic review. Now, the big picture, this helps us in one or two ways. Number one, depending on the response from the dealership, we may be able to satisfy the inspection for that dealership for this particular time period. Or, depending on the response from the dealership, we may decide to go in and look in person because what we receive electronically has raised questions or confirmed something we may have learned or heard about. So this is especially important for the newer dealerships. Those dealerships that have been around for a while, seasoned, compliant, adhering to the laws, we don't feel we should be spending as much time with them as the new ones who are coming on board that we're having some difficulty with or who are in the process of learning how to run their business. We feel that if we can do this more frequently as far as interaction, whether it's in person or electronically with the newer dealerships, then maybe we can save them or catch them before they go astray, therefore keeping them in line, therefore keeping the business more volatile and giving our consumer base more choices in the long run. So that's one of the things that we're looking at doing here pretty immediately. Now in this process, Lisa has worked with her staff very extensively to put some criteria in place that they will have to, the dealership will have to meet in order to qualify for the electronic process. But we still feel that this process will give the field rep more opportunities to interact with the dealerships, and dealerships see us more often or hear from us more often, therefore hopefully keeping them in compliance or keeping them in the thought process of, okay, our field reps are somewhere in the vicinity, whether it's in person or electronically, they're going to be checking on me. So therefore, I need to make sure that I'm in compliance with the laws as they're written and practices that's approved by the board. The other thing we're looking at doing, and which is something that's pretty simple, but something that hasn't been done, is that each field rep, when they come out to do their inspection, pretty much covers the same material from a broad perspective. But what we've noticed over the past couple of years is that some field reps have a more in-depth process than others. So I've asked the field reps, along with Lisa again, to get together and come up with a uniform process that we can implement for opening up a dealership. And I think this process, when put in place, will make it a lot better for all involved. It'll make it easier for the dealership to know what he or she is expected of them. Because in this process, not only will they be briefed about what they need to know, but they will actually sign off on it, showing that, yes, my initials or my signature signifies that I was briefed on this particular area, on this particular day about this matter. That in turn will help the hearing officer understand what the dealership was briefed. It also helped the board if it comes to the board to understand what the dealership was briefed. And also, of course, it'll help the dealer board staff understand, know that we're giving everybody the same message across the state. So that's the second thing that we're putting in place as far as the inspections go, that will hopefully make things better for everybody in the long run. And hopefully a lot of these cases coming before the board will be reduced or hopefully not exist one day. But these are two things that we're looking at putting in place immediately to help facilitate that. And of course, with the first one I spoke of, the electronic process, should we stay in a pandemic mode or something like this in the future, then we can still continue to do these inspections, which I think are very important, without being invasive, and still get things taken care of to keep dealerships in compliance with Virginia laws as far as dealerships are concerned. So do we have any questions about those 2 points before I move on to the next item? Okay. Okay. Now, as far as the portal, then we'll get into the portal discussion. Okay. So, John, next slide, please. Okay. Before you and each board member received a copy of this in the email that they got received from Alice Friday. Here we have a portal timeline. I'm not going to read it verbatim. I'm going to speak to it. For the most part, this discussion came up before the board in November of 2019. And during that particular meeting, we talked about the portal and what we envisioned as the staff, what the portal would bring to the table for all involved. Needless to say, upon the completion of the discussion, the board gave us approval to move forth and authorized me to go out and do some preliminary work to find out what a portal, if built, would cost, so we can see how we would finance this as well. So upon leaving that meeting, we worked closely with some of Commissioner Holcomb's staff at DMV to figure out how we could do this and to get this initial requirements study in place. So based off of that, we hired a vendor who I'm gonna call vendor A, because they were already on contract with the state and they were already residing within DMV, and it was convenient for us to go ahead and utilize this contract since it was in place. So with this particular vendor, we sat down and met with them a couple of times and discussed what our business needs were. Now, one of the things that we were directed to do from the board was to, when we did this, to have a user group in place and to seek input from that user group in terms of what the requirements should be and the system should be able to perform as far as functionality. So we hired this vendor, vendor A, to help us with this initial process, which is basically gather the requirements and to facilitate the user group meeting with the various representatives from various dealerships across the state, so that we can get an understanding or hopefully come to the same conclusion that the requirements we were looking for were pretty much the same for the board and for the dealerships. So we had several meetings with with vendor A to discuss this information. And also in those meetings were some of Commissioner Holcomb's staff as well, his IT staff, who are among the best in the state in terms of this type of work. When it was all said and done, in February, before the meetings took place with the user group, we sent a survey out to all the dealerships. Now, I don't know how many of you received the survey, but all of the licensed dealerships in Virginia was sent a survey, and the survey pretty much asked them some basic questions about services, things that they would like to see done on the dealer portal. Also, we sought invitations of people wishing to be part of the portal, as far as the user group, rather. We sought invitations from people who want to be part of the portal, the user group, so that we get an idea, again, of the different characteristics and services that this portal should offer. Now, during our meeting with the vendor A, we discussed everything. We discussed our business processes here at the dealer board. We discussed our interaction and the connectivity with the Department of Motor Vehicles in terms of the mainframe and the system that we share in common that houses the dealership's information. With that said, we then went into the user group meeting at the end of February. We had a meeting, board meeting in March, that we did not bring this matter up because we had just gotten results back from the user group meeting a week or so earlier. But in that meeting in the user group, we discussed for a day and a half, next slide, John, over a period of a day and a half, the different things that were taking place. Now, in this user group meeting, we had 20 different dealerships. And again, as I stated earlier, we had representation from all types of dealerships. So when I say that, I'm talking about those franchise dealerships there, independents, there were motorcycle dealerships there, there were trailer dealerships, there were everything that we licensed. Somebody was there representing that particular form of dealership through this process. So we did meet for a day and a half, which started on, I think, a Wednesday, ended on Thursday around 1 o'clock afternoon, and a lot of great discussion. And this group was also informed at the end of the meetings that we would utilize them as our test group. And we asked them before we tasked them, would they be interested in doing so? And I believe, if I recall, all of them said yes, that they would be happy to be part of the test group when this portal was built. Next slide. So out of the 1.5 day meeting, here are some of the things that came out of it as far as what we all agreed to. Now, as we were talking about earlier, we are looking at ways to streamline this entire process. A lot of the complaints that I have received since I've been here about the timeliness of what we're doing are valid in the terms of timelines. But I think there are some things that people take for granted. One, a lot of dealerships do put things in the overnight mail, but a lot of dealerships don't put things in overnight mail. And so they're calling us looking for things that we haven't even received yet. I understand the frustration that they're having in terms of looking for their credentials or looking for a response from us, but in a lot of cases, we hadn't received it yet, much less knowing about it coming until the phone call or until the email. But this portal, we feel, will be a place where everything can be submitted by the dealership to us 24/7. And those are the type of things that we're talking about. And this includes your annual renewal process that we now do by hand. We print off the documents. We have an individual on the staff who puts the package together and mails it out to the dealerships approximately 6 weeks prior to the end of their license period. I mean, month of the period, including the, I guess, penalty period. But for the most part, most people get it back in time for us to renew it. But through this dealer portal, you will now have everything in your system and you'll be notified just, hey, reminding you that your renewal period must be done by this particular date. So this system, as we envision it, you will have the ability to do this instantaneously, and which will eliminate that 4 or 5 day mailing process from outside. And when you get things complete, you will submit it back to us through the system and we will receive it instantaneously. Same day, same time. Again, as I stated earlier, you can do this when we're closed. You can do this over the weekend. You can do this whenever you want to. And hopefully, and when we receive it, we'll be able to come in, look in the queue, and work what's up in the queue. Now, on the dealer portal functionality side, again, this is the, I'm speaking now to the annual renewal. Other things that you see that we're saying will take place will be notifications and alerts, printable documents that you'll be able to print on your side as far as the dealerships are concerned. You will have multiple payment options and payment types. Ease of use is very important. And one of the things that we've stressed that it must be something that anybody could use as far as the system. Of course, we will do some type of training to assist, but we are very strong on the ease of use part of it. It has to be a secure environment, which is an understatement when it comes to information that you're submitting to us and what we're submitting back to you in turn. And the biggest key here to me also is the real-time activity. Now, on the benefits side, there are many benefits, and I don't have them all listed here, but here are some of the major benefits. We feel that the reduction or elimination of mail costs for a lot of dealerships. We receive a lot of mail right now into this office. And unfortunately, because of things being lost in the mail or things being misplaced, we log in every piece of mail that we receive in this office. And it takes a lot of time for it to be logged in. So when we receive mail, we have to log it in, then we assign it to a technician to work. Through this portal, this process will be eliminated or drastically reduced. To the dealerships, you'll have a significant savings for those of you who use overnight mail or mailings. you would probably get that probably eliminated because everything you need to do, hopefully be able to do through the portal. Reduction in processing time, because now you hit the button to send it, we will receive it immediately, and we will already have at least a couple of hours head start on it now versus what the process is in place currently. So again, that's something that will speed up things. Quality control would be there. E-form applications for dealers to use the stuff that will be available. And as I stated earlier, 24-hour availability. Next slide, John. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and talk a little bit about the, I guess, the vendors. We had an opportunity to talk to 3 various vendors. All 3 of them are on state contract, which means that we do not have to go out and do an RFP. We can go to any of these 3 vendors with the board's permission and blessing, and to get this process started. Vendor A was the vendor that we used to help us gather the requirements. And with that in place, this is what came out of it. Vendor A's first thing they told us when we met with them, they gave us a cost. We met with vendor A, I want to say March, April time period. And in the discussion, they said that we needed to I guess, have 9 servers available, I guess, to do the development, testing, and product production on those 9 servers. 3 servers for each function. Also, vendor A said when the system's built and completed, that they were done with it, that the maintenance of the system, the update of the system, that was all on the dealer board, all on us. Also, in their build though, it would be built to integrate with DMV's mainframe system. So therefore, the things that we were looking for will be provided to the dealer board and to the dealership community. Now, the cost of that system, they told us anywhere from $400,000 to $600,000, and an annual cost of $108,000 per year just for the use of the servers that we will have to pay Vita for the use of servers, of the 9 servers, basically $1,000 per server per month. Okay, John, next slide. So when this came about, this is when COVID really kicked in for us. So for the next couple of weeks or maybe month, we were focusing on COVID issues and put this on the back burner a little bit. But at the same time, as we were dealing with COVID, we kept identifying reasons why, or looked at the fact that the portal would solve a lot of the issues that we were experiencing during the first part of the COVID-19 pandemic. So we reached out then to another contractor, which we will call vendor B. Now, vendor B, we met with them latter part of May, June, and they came up with their proposal, and this is what their proposal offered us. First, vendor B used the requirements developed by vendor A. So in a way, they were going off information that somebody had put in place for them, which is understandable. So their quote might not be, it might be slightly off, but I don't think it's off by much. Vendor B said that they would provide these servers for us. So immediately there goes a savings in my mind of $108,000 that we don't have to pay to them. But I'll get into that in a second. Vendor B also said that they would do the same as vendor A in terms of build the system to integrate into DMV systems and provide us in the dealer community for what we're looking for, but that they would host and maintain the service application to include the integrity and the integrity of the data and the data itself. Their costs at the time, given the fact that they were using vendor A's analysis, they felt would be about $128,000 to $175,000, which includes development and delivery. And they told us that they felt, since they were maintaining the servers for us and maintaining the system, basically, that they felt it would be about a little bit under $3,000 per month to do so. So that was vendor B. John, next slide, please. And a third vendor, which we'll call vendor C, which we received theirs recently and had discussions with them, their approach is a little bit different. Now, let me back up for a second. First of all, we have 3 proposals, or 3, I guess, not proposals, but we have 3 vendors who have 3 different solutions to address our issue. which was pretty good in the sense that we wanted some variety, but when we picked these three out, we didn't know we were picking them, that we would hit a home run in terms of them all being totally different from one another. This third vendor wants to do a COT solution. In most terms, for most people, a commercial off-the-shelf solution has already been developed, and they want to modify that or to reconfigure it. They felt that the COT solution would be cheaper in terms of cost, and depending on the degree of modification is where the expense would come in. We as MVDB would not host the application. The vendor, the software developer would own that information. We will own the data, but they will own the system itself. And vendor C, of course, like the previous two, has told us that they would integrate it into the DMV system, to integrate with DMV rather, so that again, that what we need to do in terms of functionality, in terms of interactions with the dealership community would take place. Their costs they gave us was between $199,000 and $299,000, depending on the complexity of customizing the application itself. And they told us that it would be an annual cost in the neighborhood of $40,000 per year for the services and for servers and for licenses. Again, now this solution here, the licensed software, whenever changes to the software are made, we will receive updates to the software, and depending on the change itself, it may have some type of effect on our solution since we have modified the original software that the I guess vendor created in the first place. So let's go back now to talk about a bigger picture in terms of expenses. Okay, so we've now heard a range of $128,000 for one vendor, and another vendor on the top end is $600,000. Okay, so with that said, we did some talking to the budgeting people that we have that assigned to the Department of Motor Vehicles. The solution from vendor B, I believe that was $128,000 to $175,000. And talking to Alicia Hottinger, who is the budget manager at DMV, and the annual cost of $33,500, that's a system that in our current frame, as far as budget goes, that they feel that we can absorb at the moment. And when I say absorb, my point here is that board members, you have received financial statements about, guess what we're doing here, our collections, our expenditures, and you can see what kind of money we have as far as the dealer board is concerned. We have a cushion in the checkbook, basically about $1.5, $1.6 million. It's not that we can spend that, we have to get a special appropriation to touch that, but the point here is that with the current budget that we have, our current collections that we have, the budgeting office feels that we can absorb this purchase of this system and absorb the annual maintenance of the system without having to increase fees or do anything to increase our fees as they are right now. So that was good news to us when we heard that. Now, the second solution, the one that's between $199 and $299, the same was felt for that as well. However, with that solution, if we went that route, that $1.5 million cushion that we currently have in place now could be eaten up a lot quicker. And at some point within the next 3, 4, 5 years, we may need to increase the cost of our licenses and things to cover that cost. But at the moment where we are right now, they also felt that we could absorb that cost as well, but also knowing that down the road, we need to increase our fees to cover the projected expenses. The third solution, which was vendor A, which is the $400,000 to $600,000 solution, and the annual fee of $108,000, we don't think that's a good option because there is no maintenance. That basically is a solution that we pay a lot of money for, and when it's all said and done, we would be expected to maintain that system. And for those on the board who are already familiar with this, and from those who are joining in with us, we have an IT staff of one person here, and I don't think it's fair to him or to the agency for us to have that responsibility of maintaining a system when we don't have the personnel or the ability to do so. So I think that solution, vendor A, is something that we cannot afford, number one, and I don't think it's a good practice for us to even look at them any further, because we feel we need somebody to not only build a system, but who's able to also maintain the system. So that's where we are in terms of that in the big picture. Now, I mentioned Alicia Hottinger's name earlier. She is online in case there's questions about the budget, in terms of, in case we need some clarification. But for the most part, vendor A, as I recap it, John, next slide, please. I'm getting ahead of myself. Next slide. Okay, so vendor A, I don't think we can afford that. It's expensive.
William?
Vendor B, yes.
Can you drop the slide deck off so we can see who might be wanting to ask a question?
Yes. Yes. So with that said, for the most part, that's pretty much, I guess, the information that we have to, I guess, present to you in terms of the portal and the various vendors that we looked at and what the price range is for to build such a portal. The one thing they all had in common is that the portal development time period could be anywhere between 4 to 6 months for the most part. We have to keep in mind, though, that 2 of the vendors that we talked to were using the analysis performed by vendor A, and we may need to give them additional couple, 3 weeks time for them to come in and do their own analysis before they start building the system to make sure that they have everything they need to produce what we need, or what we're looking for. So that's my presentation, Commissioner.
Okay. Why don't we ask your IT person? I see Tom's got his hand up to see if there's anything he wants to add.
Yeah, I just wanted to introduce myself, Tom Bates, Chairman of VADA. Hello to Executive Director Childress and Mr. Commissioner Holcomb, who I've met when I had a lot more hair and it was a little darker. So haven't seen you guys for a while, but it's good to see you on our program. And I appreciate you taking this venue to let everyone get together. I just wanted to add to 7 of the people that mentioned about the sales license. The reason that probably people are itchy is this PPP. There's millions of dollars on the line, and if there was some way, which you guys know the best, that there would be a way to have a temporary COVID emergency self-approval or self-audit or something for the licenses, and then let's say it takes 10, 11, 12, 20 days, whatever it is, if someone abused the privilege that you gave them, then you could revoke it. But during this time for COVID, which I'm sure a lot of you guys know about, if they don't have the same amount of employees, it could cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I just wanted to put an exclamation point on Ann's great points and several of the other people and all of the work that you guys are doing. But when these auditors come in from SBA and the Treasury, they're not going to be looking at what we're going to do. They're going to be looking at what we have now. So I just wanted to take a moment to say hello, and the forum's terrific. It's been a pleasure to sit in and watch and listen. And I just wanted to add that little bit that makes dealers like myself very, very itchy. So that you might know in case you did not. So thank you for your presentation, and I'm going to bow out.
Thank you, Tom. I think you and I both suffer from less hair and different color. So I think both you and I years ago looked a lot different. So good seeing you. Good seeing you, Tom. First of all, William, very good presentation. What I'd like to do is I'd like to put together sort of a quick subcommittee of my 4 chairs. And I'm going to ask Ron Cody, my vice chair, to sort of head things up. Ron, I'd like you and the other 3 chairs to really do a deep dive into 2 issues, if you would. One, William's presentation, and certainly I will continue, William, to make any of my IT people available to help run an analysis of the 3 proposals you've got and long-term benefits as well as long-term costs. So please be willing to do that. But Ron, what I'd also ask you to do, if you're willing, is to pull the chairs together with William, talk about again how we're going to get this portal stood up, doing exactly what we want to do for the best price, but for the best value. But I also would like you to look into the salesperson question. And I'd like to have some recommendations on how, in light of everything that's going on with COVID, how we might do things differently, whether we can, and obviously I hope that Christian is on the call today. I don't see him up on the screen, but Christian, if you're on, I'm going to make you available to Ron as well, because I'd like to have the team look at how we can maybe expedite the salesperson processing in light of COVID, whether we could do something administratively, whether we need the governor to intervene as he's done with DMV through an executive order or an executive directive because of the emergency. So, Ron, do you feel comfortable in sort of heading up, looking at those two subjects?
Sure, Commissioner, I can do it. I don't think there's any other answer, is there? But no, I'm fine with it. And sales licensing is a hot topic right now, and the portal is something we're all very excited about and can't wait to start moving the ball forward there as well.
Now, okay, Mr. Commissioner, for the record, Christian is not attending this meeting. However, Janet Ball is on the call. She is here representing D's office, but we'll make sure he gets that information.
Good. And thank you. Thank you, Ron. Let me also ask David Duncan, Chris Meyer, and Maurice Slaughter if they would also consent to being part of that committee to meet pretty quickly and come up with some recommendations. I know our next full meeting is September, but Ron, bottom line, I think the majority of the board can call a special meeting at any point. William, you're shaking your head yes. So certainly, Ron, if you've got some recommendations, if you and your committee have some recommendations prior to September, let William know and we'll have a special meeting. But so Maurice,
yes.
Would you consent in serving on this special committee?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Chris, I see you're on the line as well. Chris, are you good with being part of this committee?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I am.
Okay, and David Duncan, I see his thumb up, and William, you don't have a choice. So Ron, I challenge you to come up with some recommendations on both how we can expedite the salespeople in the interim, and then how come up with a recommendation on the direction that we need to take on the portal. Next steps.
We'll do it. Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, thanks, Ron.
Any discussion allowed?
Yes, discussion, please.
Mr. Gardner-Britt again. This salesman's licenses is pretty important. I think we ought to have an answer and a solution by the end of the month. So I'm thinking August 1st that we need to either come up with some kind of a waiver or something. And I'll be willing to make a motion that we make a rule right now that we could have this, starting. But this PPP money is large dollars, and you could study this stuff for 6 months or a year, and then all of a sudden, all those forgivable loans are now have to be paid back, and that's just too bad. But this is big dollars.
Ron, you heard the charge from one of your colleagues. Do you feel comfortable that you might have some recommendations? Today is the 13th. You've got a couple of weeks. Do you feel comfortable that we could get together first part of August to discuss your recommendations?
I think so. As Gardner has said, it's a big issue, Commissioner, with all of these PPP loans and headcount being so important. It can't take a couple weeks to get somebody on board.
Okay, great. And Maurice, I see your mic is on. Is there a comment you would like to make?
No, not at this time.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry, other discussion?
Yeah, sorry, quick question, just on the portal. Portal development is a very specific art, I guess, and I think it would be good if the committee was not only the chair, made up of the chairs of this group, but anybody who has specific experience developing a portal might be a good add to this committee. I don't, but I know our tech people do, and I'm sure several of the people on this in this committee on the board have tech folks who have built portals and used different vendors. And I just think there's a lot of people who don't know tech. Opining on tech is pretty dangerous. So it'd be great. I'd feel much better if we had some deeper and perhaps between Ron and Maurice and everybody, you guys have deep experience in developing portals. I'm assuming you don't, but correct me if I'm wrong. But it'd be good to have some more depth of experience there if they're evaluating different proposals.
Michael, I appreciate that, and just because every committee should have an odd number so that we can always have a vote that's not a tie. Mr. Cody, I'm going to add Michael Moore to your committee as well. I appreciate him volunteering his expertise in IT. Michael, in all seriousness, absolutely, it's a big issue. The bottom line is, the dealer board, got stood up in 95, 96, and we really haven't spent $1 on IT since. And so this is, we want to get it right, and we want to make sure because we've neglected it for long enough. And so absolutely, Michael, I appreciate appreciate your point and look forward to having you assist. And certainly, Michael's right. If other members of the board have their CIO or their IT expert that they would like to make available, just let Ron Ron know. Ron, I would say, even though I've charged you with two different subjects here, I do think that the salesperson issue is probably the one that is more timely. And so I will, put the pressure on you to have a recommendation back on that by the end of the month. And certainly if we want to bifurcate the decisions or the recommendations and have a recommendation on the portal a little later into August, if not September, I think that's fine. But I do agree with the members that the salesperson is the most timely issue.
I understand, Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Commissioner, I also like to make something we can do in the interim. And this is not going to stop the things you put in place, which we need to move forward with. But in the interim, what we would do here also is that we would go ahead and at the moment that we actually, process the application, what we can do is that we can get a copy of the, the system screen print and send it to the dealership showing that the person is licensed. And that way they would just have proof that the license does exist and that it is valid. And that way they can start selling before the license actually arrives. Again, this is still going to be when we process it. So there's a possibility that we pay the process as they will receive it. And then it might be a day or two later, but it still will expedite the current process and go hand in hand with what you've tasked the committee to look at. So this is something we can try in the interim to see if this helps any.
I saw the VA thumbs up. So that sounds like a good interim, good fix. Other comments?
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Senor.
So this, I saw in the VADA suggestion that the licenses could, if it's approved, could be actually printed by the dealer system, rather than to be mailed from DMV. Is that
that I don't think that's possible right now because we don't have the ability to print the licenses. The licenses are produced in an overnight batch through DMV's mainframe system right now. So that's a little bit down the road. That's something that we're hoping, that's something that the portal will eventually address in terms of the actual license. But it is the end game hopefully within the next couple of years that the dealerships will be able to print the licenses at their location versus coming through the mail. We're just not there yet.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions? Okay, William, I believe that we're done with old business. Is there any other old business from the floor? Okay, William, we'll move to new business, and let me recognize Michael for some discussion on a new subcommittee dealing with diversity and inclusion.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. As the issue of racism has come to the forefront for a much larger percentage of the population than those most affected by it, I've spent a bunch of time within my organization chatting with my colleagues, and several of them have brought up really interesting ways that we can be a better company and better business. And one young gentleman who works for us suggested that he'd like to be more influential in terms of helping the industry be better with respect to diversity and inclusion across the industry. And I thought that was a great idea. I spoke to William about it and a few of you, and the feedback has been very positive. And I think there's room for a subcommittee within this group of folks within the industry who can get together and come up with ideas and create best practices that can be recommendations for all the dealers in our industry, especially in our state, to operate in ways that ensure over time there's greater diversity and inclusion, not just at really at all ranks within a dealership. So I wanted to propose that we create this subcommittee. I've got someone in mind who would be on it. I'd love if, and I've spoken to a couple of you, some who aren't here unfortunately today, who also have folks within their organization who would probably want to be on this committee. And the idea would be that the committee meets once a month or a couple times a quarter, and then comes before the board and offers up suggestions, recommendations, best practices that can then be shared across our constituency. So I don't know if we want to have a discussion about that, or if it makes sense to, or if we need to vote on it. But I'd like to kick it off.
Michael, appreciate that. Let me just ask either William or if Janet Ball can answer. I know that the statute sets forth the statutory committees, but I also, since I just used the power earlier in this meeting, I also have the broad power to appoint special committees or special subcommittees. So William, I guess I want confirmation that I can that I can do that. I guess since I've already done it with Ron and a special subcommittee, but I think that Michael makes a good point, and I think that this is one that would have a more long-term existence than just what I've asked Ron to do. So I feel comfortable that I have the power to do that, but I'll let Janet or William speak to that.
Discussion, sir?
Yes.
I was trying to understand. I was under the impression that our the dealer board was not for making rules and laws. It was more for enforcing the ones done by the legislature, and how to enact them and how to make sure we're supposed to protect the consumers. What he's talking about, best practices, while it's a good idea and I support it, isn't that more appropriately handled by the dealer associations, which are more in the training and the newsletters, and this is what we really find is really good, and this is the way you should be addressing your customers. And so I thought the dealer associations, this is more in their lane, and our lane is more to take the legislature that comes to us and not rewrite it, but to implement it and take care of the consumer body.
I mean, certainly, Gardner, I think there's a whole lot of talking about staying in your lane. I think that we have a whole lot of lane crossing right now, but that's a point that I mean, certainly that can be discussed.
Dan, you're on mute.
Apologize. I tend to agree with Gardner. I don't know if it's a place of the dealer board to get into this aspect. I think VADA or the others would probably be better served to do that.
I think, the reason that I brought up here is, I'm obviously I'm not a new car dealer, so I fall under the VIADA. Obviously, there's the VADA, and I think you can get very distributed very quickly and have less impact. I thought a committee within this board could be spread out across all types of dealers, and I've certainly seen us as a governing body pull together committees that are tasked with making dealers in Virginia better and more efficient and more productive, and so I felt like it fits for those reasons.
Commissioner, can I speak to this?
Yeah, Don, I see Don Hall. Go ahead.
Yeah, Michael, I have not had the pleasure of meeting you. We have some mutual friends, which is a good thing. And I know the good work that you're doing with your operation, so congrats. Let me say, as an association and as a person who's been in this industry since 1979, I have spoken publicly on this subject matter, and to some cases to my own personal detriment. And I have gone out of my way to make sure that we have equality. We are, in the new car ranks, we suffer from a situation where, frankly, most franchises were purchased and bought long ago. And what we are trying to do is have fairness to all races, to all minorities. And I want Michael to know that as an association, VADA is actually, to use a military term, because I spent years in the Marine Corps, as Rick knows, we absolutely are the point of the spear on this subject matter, working with the National Minority Dealer Association as well, to really push on the fact that minorities should have, and this association believes, opportunities to run dealerships, to own dealerships, and so forth. And so, Michael, though I think your idea is a good one, I want you to know that as a state association on a national platform, having been on my job for 30-some years, we are in fact out preaching the gospel in a way that you would want us to preach it, and are trying to do exactly what your young man has suggested. I just don't know that the dealer board plays a role in that. Now, having said that, we also passed legislation 2 years ago that many of the dealers on this call were involved in order to help minorities as they buy dealerships to make sure they have an opportunity to truly own those stores. So we've gone out of our way, even in Virginia, as a legislature, to deal with that, which is a good thing. And you will see us as an association leading in that arena. So we support the concept, just not sure with all that you have going on that that's a function of the dealer board. But this association will continue to lead in the area of minorities having a fair opportunity, whether it be in the sales ranks, the accounting ranks, the service ranks, senior management, and ownership ranks. In fact, as you will observe, many of our members of the Motor Vehicle Dealer Board are in fact from those minority communities, and many of which serve my own board of directors at VADA, including many of my staff members. So we are walking the talk, not just speaking to be heard.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Don. What I've seen out of the industry is helpful for owners and managers. I know there are groups out there that are promoting diversity amongst ownership groups. What I haven't seen in my limited 10 years in the industry is anything that helps kind of from the bottom up. People get promoted at the same rate. People move into more senior positions, not ownership, but senior positions at the same rate that represents the communities that we serve. I feel like this subcommittee could influence what goes into the Dealer Talk newsletter, It could influence the sharing of best practices amongst our constituents. And frankly, if we have some young folks who are eager to participate and provide ideas and develop best practices, I have a hard time seeing the downside.
Mr. Chairman, if I may add, as I told you earlier, that Janet Ball from the AG's office is on the call. She's having technical difficulties right now, so she's been sending me text messages. And I just want to put it out there so you'll be aware of it. Janet, from reading the code, feels that you have the authority to put such a committee together. She thinks those powers are provided to you under 46.2-1503.4 under numbers 10, 11, and 8, which basically gives you some authority to take certain actions, as you stated earlier. So that's something we can look at to make sure, but I just want to make sure that you're aware of that since she's unable to speak right now.
Okay, William, other comments? Dan, I saw your mic was on at one point, whether you want to add to the conversation.
I did comment earlier. I just don't know if it's should be the part of the motor vehicle dealer board to weigh in on this. I don't know. I mean, I think I kind of mirror what Don Hall and Gardner Britt said. And Gardner Britt said, I thought that the role of the motor dealer board was to enforce the rules and regulations of all the laws and stuff that are on the books, not for us to come out and come up with different policies for minority dealers or whatever, unless there's a law in place that the dealers are not following, that are not protecting minority dealers or of everybody. I don't know how we would say that the motor vehicle dealer board would be should weigh in on this. And like Don Hall said, the VADA is doing a very good job on it, and I've obviously seen what they've done. And best practices, I don't know. I mean, so we're gonna have a board to get together, or a subcommittee, and tell everybody what they should do to support minorities. I don't know. I mean, I just don't know if that's the place for for this board to be able to get into that. I mean, although I do support it and I do agree with it, but I just don't know if this is the right forum to try to do that. And I also want to say is I want to caution, most people are very touchy about this subject right now. Obviously I'm a minority, but and let's not jump to conclusions or make decisions that we wouldn't normally make, or that wouldn't be, that we're doing things that have nothing to do with one or the other, just because we want to jump on the bandwagon of supporting the different movements that are going on right now. And again, I just don't think that the motor vehicle dealer board is that's the place for that.
Michael, final words.
I'm frankly quite surprised that there's not more support on this call for this. Nothing that I said I feel is controversial. Nothing, the creation of best practices is not something that's intended to tell people what to do, but it's to support people in creating better businesses, which I think that's part of what we do is help the dealers in our constituency thrive and survive and thrive. So I'm frankly totally shocked. Truthfully, a little insulted. It sounds like it seems like it's a bandwagon jump, but I'm coming to this board at the request of people within my organization that thought this was a good idea. I am their representative on this board, and I thought it was an idea that would have very little to no downside, and would love to still put it up for vote to see if there's enough support to approve a subcommittee.
Commissioner, comment?
I'm trying to see who that is.
Randy Harris.
Okay, Randy.
So, Michael, first off, I want to commend you on the efforts that you've taken within your own organization to find out how you can make it more inclusive. I'm a firm believer that if everybody had that same view within their own house, we would have a much more inclusive industry as well as other industries throughout the country. I mean, I'm a firm believer that much change is warranted in our industry at all levels, but I do not believe that this dealer board, this organization, has the ability really to impact that change. But I do want to commend you for your thought, your efforts, and hopefully others will begin to discuss how they may change their own organizations.
Other discussion?
And Michael, I want to say, I commend you also, and I don't mean to say that you're jumping on the bandwagon. I just say in general, that seems to be what's happening. And I do commend you. And again, like Randy Hare said, I mean, if more people out there, more dealers like you took on that role and would address their people on an individual basis, I think that's going to go a longer way. So I do commend you. But again, I just don't believe this is the correct forum for that. Thank you.
Okay, I think at this point I'm going to take the discussion under advisement, and we may have further discussion on it at our next meeting. But I appreciate Michael bringing it up, and I just want to reach out to some folks and talk through this a little bit more. So at this point, I'll just take the request under advisement. Is there any other new business from the floor? Maybe, William, and I don't know, I'm looking through the screen here. I know Ann is still on, Don's still on. I see that the VADA is still on. Let me just ask, obviously, I think everyone knows that there's a special session coming up. We know, or we expect it to be sometime in August. Certainly, there may be legislation dealing with the budget. There may be legislation dealing with additional emergency powers that the governor should have during this emergency, or that even his agency head should have. But let me just ask the VADA, the VIADA, if either are aware of any legislative initiatives that might impact the dealership community that they'd like to discuss. Don?
Commissioner, thank you. I have spoken with some people that are in the know, and there are going to be a number of things, but nothing to my knowledge specifically will impact, to my knowledge, the industry direct. However, there will be some things dealing with employment that potentially could affect all of you as employers, for sure. At this point, I can't be specific because I don't know the specifics. Like everyone else, I sort of wait in behalf of our dealers to see what they are. But I know there's going to be some moving forward a little more rapidly, even the minimum wage, which frankly doesn't impact our industry. We pay people more than minimum wage to begin with. They may try to expedite that quicker, as an example. There will be a lot. It is my understanding that they're trying to narrow the focus. However, it could last much longer than 2 or 3 days. It could go even over the holiday and so forth. So they could be in for a while. As those who represent you all, we are concerned at some level because the ability to reach people is much harder today than it once was. And so there is some difficulties with that. But it will be an interesting session, to say the least. And Michael, I'm going to send you some stuff that I put out recently on a national level that I think you might see where our heart is. That includes in print as well as national interviews, to know that we share your concerns. We just think the proper environment is in the associations pushing this stuff, and not in an agency that has limited time and money and resources. So I hope you will allow me to send that to you, where you can see kind of where we're coming from. And I would welcome an opportunity to meet with you for lunch any day to chat further, because I care about this issue greatly. So Rick, that's sort of, again, that's what I've heard. I have talked to some reliable sources that you and I both would know. As an industry, I don't believe we're under attack directly, or anything negative or positive for that matter. But I think the employment situation will impact all of us.
Okay, I think, Don, I appreciate that. And I am hearing the same thing you're hearing, that this is not going to be an in and out quickly. Certainly procedurally, one party may have some concerns with some of the police reform items that will be moved by the Democratic caucus, and so there may be some procedural objections. And I think you're right. I think a week is probably the bare minimum, and probably even longer than that. So thank you, Don. VIADA, does anything that Alvin, anything you want to add on behalf of the VIADA?
Yeah, the independent community, we are extremely diverse. I will say we're probably in Virginia 75% diverse. I am in with Michael Bohr in this. I think we should take this to vote. I think that this is a very important subject matter in the state of Virginia and what's going on. We saw everything that's been happening in the last couple of months here in the state and across the United States. I think this is something we definitely should be addressing. And Michael, if you want to, reach out to VIADA and get together and something that we can submit to DMV or Motor Vehicle Dealer Board, I'll be more than glad to get together with you and come together with a plan.
Alvin, and I appreciate those comments, but I was specifically asking, is VIADA aware of any legislative initiatives that might be moved during the special session in August that would impact the dealer community?
Not as of right now. The only thing that lately came up was the highway fees that are extremely hard to compute, and the average dealer in the southern part of the state can do that manually. So that is something that I wish we would have known ahead of time.
Okay, well, those fees were part of the legislative process, and you just need to follow the legislative process. And we can try to help explain how those fees are calculated. But I agree with you. It's not simple, but it went through the process, so no one should have been surprised by that. Okay, William, I think we're at the part of the agenda that the executive directors report. So let me turn that over to you at this point.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank all participants for the meeting today. We've had some very good discussion, and I would like to, at some point in the future, have the board meetings centered more around things that we've talked about versus hearing and violations. But again, thanks for the participation. Thanks for the discussion. Appreciate it. And as we've always known, there's a lot of work to be done. I think we're on the road to getting those things done starting today. Today's message or today's briefing, as far as the board is concerned, is one that I've not looked forward to providing, but I must let you guys know that today's meeting will be the last meeting that Peggy Bailey will be part of the dealer board. I have not talked to Peggy about this announcement I'm about to make to you guys, but she's listening. She's in the next room, in the conference room. But I want to take the time to acknowledge her before the board with some information about her. First of all, Peggy has been a state employee for more than 47 years. I think she went 47 years maybe a couple months ago, but she's been around for a long time. She was with DMV prior to coming to the dealer board when it was created back in 1995. So she's been here since the first brick was laid, as I always tease her about. Peggy is somebody who I look to with a lot of respect because of her knowledge, number one, but number two, because she's a good person. She's a kind person. I've been around Peggy now for 4 years, and in that 4-year period, we've had some pretty intense conversations. We've had some very lighthearted conversations, but through it all, I cannot recall a time where Peggy was not acting out of character. What you see in her at the board meetings, her demeanor, the way she goes about her business, is what we see here every day. And there have been some issues that she's had to deal with that could have pushed many buttons, but she's always managed to keep herself composed, in line, and carry out her responsibilities professionally. She has been a great source of information and knowledge to all those at the dealer board and outside the dealer board. I know she has many relationships with the dealer community. She has many relationships with the associations, and those are the type of things that we're going to miss upon her retiring. Her retirement is effective paper-wise in September of 2020, but Peggy's last day here at the dealer board, the last day at work, will be on August 24th of this year. So we got a short amount of time left with her. And so I just wanted to make sure that she's acknowledged as far as the board's concerned, because our next board meeting she will not be there. But at the same time, as we move forward, we're going to try to find a way to appropriately recognize her, given the climate that we're living in now. We have found some way to do that. But I also want to, on record, state that we're going to miss her. She's been a great source of knowledge. She's been a great employee. We're going to miss her, and I want to wish her well as she moves on to the next phase of her life, which I think is going to be fulfilling and rewarding. And I know she can't wait to spend more time with her grandkids, to do more things within her church community, and just enjoy the fruits of her labor for the past 47 years.
William, William is someone who's worked with Peggy both at DMV, and we were always very sorry to see her leave. But boy, did the dealer board benefit from our loss. She has been a tremendous state public servant. She will be missed by all of us. Peggy, you know, anytime you want to come back as a part-timer at DMV, you know how to contact me. But Peggy, thank you for your long.
We get first dibs.
Well, we'll see. We'll see who can outbid who. But Peggy, thank you for everything that you have done. And I'm sorry that the full board is not physically together so that we could all stand and lead. I will lead the board virtually in a round of applause for the great job that you've done. Everyone is applauding you, Peggy. Thank you so much. William, anything else on your report?
No, sir. That concludes my report.
Okay. Yes, sir. Don Hall.
Yeah. Let me say on behalf of the new car dealers in Virginia, the commissioner and I go back to the first day this board was created long ago, and we had many naysayers way back when, as the commissioner can attest to. And I will tell you that, frankly, the success of the board, Peggy was the glue that came in. I knew Peggy from her DMV days and had come over. Rick brought her over to the dealer board, and she had that knowledge. And I can tell you on behalf of the new car dealers, and I'm certain that the independent dealers would feel the same way, that knowledge was critical when this board was formed. It's been critical for all these many years. And though I honestly can say I haven't always agreed with some of the thoughts that have come out of the dealer board, I do respect the fact that Peggy is a leader amongst that group as a professional and has done what she knew to be right in her mind. And I've always considered her to be someone that we could count on doing what's right and representing all in a very good fashion. So Peggy, on behalf of the new car dealers, again, we want to thank you as well. It has made a huge difference. This board was doomed from the early on, saying we'd never be able to make it. It was not right having, us, controlling and deciding the fate of dealers doing their own controlling. And you're part of the reason this board has succeeded for a long time. And the commissioner knows that all too well. So thank you, Mr. Commissioner, and Peggy.
Thank you, Don, for those remarks. Any other?
No, I just wanted to thank Peggy. She's been always great and one of the best, and she's greatly going to be missed. I'm sure she'll have a great time at her retirement time with grandchildren, and I wish her the best of luck. And thank you again.
Any other comments?
I would just add, Tom Bates, it might be nice for VADA, because of so many dealers, and the dealer board to get on some kind of Zoom and have like 50 or 100 people just wish her well. She has been fabulous. I'm not going to tell you how old I've been in the business, but she was there when I started too. So
probably when you sold that first Model T Ford, I guess. Okay, folks, with hearing no other items to be brought before the board, like I said, I do want to put everyone on notice. I know Ron Cody will do his fabulous job with his committee to come up with some recommendations on salespeople. And William, I know public meeting notices. What is it? 10-day notice or 2-week notice?
I need to check on it, sir, but I think you're in the ballpark, but we'll meet the requirement.
Okay, so everyone probably, probably should look for that first Monday in August for a meeting, but stay tuned for the staff to properly go through the public notice. But so we'll hopefully have some recommendations to discuss and entertain. And I would think, William, although I'll defer to you, that maybe that August meeting would be just for the report of the special committee that Ron is chairing, and we would not do other business. We would hold that business for the September meeting. So, folks, thank you. I know that it's always a challenge for us to participate in the meeting electronically, but at least my IT people worked out my IT issues. So thanks, everyone. And without objection, the meeting stands adjourned. Thanks, everyone, for participating.
Thank you.